Good morning, everybody. I'll just say wow for the morning this morning. That's very informative sessions from all the pillars and our minister earlier on, and his support is very welcome. My name is Aidan Bermingham. I'm Senior Project Manager in Irish Rail, the Infrastructure Department, and I'm the Industry Advocate for Pillar 5. I'm also a member of the Build Digital Steering Group. I have the pleasure of introducing the Pillar 5 presentation today. I'd just like to identify our co-chairs, Dr. James O'Donnell from UCD, Dr. Derek Sinnott from Southeast Technological University, and Dr. Mark Kelly from the Atlantic Technological University. As we all seen over the last number of years, we've been informed through publication, regulation, and scientific research that climate change is upon us, and we have to do something about it. And as part of that, Pillar 5 will look at the tools and toolkits to help us progress that. Even in my current project, which is the East Coast Railway Infrastructure Protection Project, which is the largest coastal defence project in northwestern Europe, we have to look at the circular economy with regard to extractive industries and the challenges that we have and the new way of thinking that we have to do to adopt the sustainability and circular economy approach to our projects. Even in our research, as part of that project, we have found that in the last 20 years, there's been a significant increase in storm events that affect the railway infrastructure on the East Coast compared to the previous 100. So we have tangible research that we have in our records, our measurements, and how we do things to identify this is a reality. So just to identify some of the numerous strategies and plans that have been set out to give us pathways and guidance to deliver to the deliverables required as part of this, the circular economy and climate action. We have the Climate Action Plan 2021. We have the Waste Action Plan for circular economy. We have the whole government circular economy strategy, best practice guidelines, building a zero carbon Ireland, and a roadmap to digital transition. So how we as an industry and country are going to map and implement these strategies that we're hoping to digitize and make the toolkits available to us so we can progress this forward. Pillar 5's vision is to create a digitization for a circular economy DICE toolkit for the Irish construction sector. It has to be practical, usable, and relevant. It has to be digital and circular, but incorporating built environment synergies. And it's embedded circular economy principles across all phases, organization sizes, and professional disciplines. And there's a common word that's been raised in all the pillars, in all the speeches, and all the addresses today, and it's the big word of collaboration. This is where we have to get out of our silos and be collaborative between industries, funders, researchers. We all work on this together as one big team. As part of our process and design for circular economy, we have to design out waste and pollution, restorative and regenerative design. So just, think differently, conserve resources. What do we have? Can we reuse them again? Increase efficiencies in how we design, manufacture, and look at the way we design things. Reorganize and maintain value and utility, manage resources sustainability. As an example of, I'm going to use my coastal project again, we have a significant quantity of material that's needed to create our breakwater structural defences. It's in the region of 5 million tons. Normally, in the past, you would have went to a mountain and you would have dug it out. We can't do that anymore. So we have to look at other avenues and ways to create that infrastructure as part of that project. And being on Pillar 5, and I'd like to say thanks for the invite, it's given me a different way of looking at things. And I'm hoping to work well with the co-chairs and the pillar to get toolkits I can use in the projects that I am working on every day. So I'm going to hand over now to Dr. James O'Donnell from UCD. James.
Great. Good morning, everybody. First of all, thank you very much, Aidan. Those examples are fantastic and nice, tangible use cases for everybody to relate to. So now that we clearly understand what's at stake here, I'm going to talk a little bit about how we will address that over the next 5 years. So first and foremost, with any credible project, we need to have a horizon scan that examines what has been done before, so we essentially don't reinvent the wheel. And it's most important, and we have started with that, and I will talk about that in a few slides' time. So the idea is that the horizon scan will then give us the opportunity to look at what's been done, and then how we could draft a framework, for the DICE framework, based on lessons learned and the needs of industry. Okay, so years 2 to 5, I'll summarize as the development of the toolkits, both industry and educational, testing those toolkits with our living labs, refining the toolkits in collaboration with industry, that's large scale, and particularly from SMEs, and to ensure that the toolkits we deliver at the end of year 5 are suitable for wide scale deployment with SMEs in particular. So that's our real challenge, and that's how we will measure success. Okay, so Aidan mentioned collaboration. We have a great group of industry partners here, very enthusiastic and engaged. We're delighted to have that. We also have the pillar core team in place. It's taken a little while, but we have Sadaf, Johannes, and Azadeen at 3 respective higher educational institutions. And it's great to have everybody on board, and so far we're working well. So I mentioned the horizon scan. I'll talk about that over the next 4 slides, but it will include a significant examination of academic publications. We'll also look at EU-funded projects, annual survey, of course, which everybody's familiar with at this point. We look at industry cases and particularly interviews and workshops to establish what is going on in industry and where best practice is. Okay, so I think we're aware of the survey, and today's the conference, and we can talk about the toolkit and the boundaries at the end. So wow, what is this? This is the start of our academic investigation and a horizon scan. So we've examined 36,000 papers. It's been done at UCD. It's a phenomenal new technique we've identified in academia called cytometric analysis. And what we can see here is that it's an examination of our domain using key keyword pairings. So for example, circular economy and BIM, circular economy, digitalization and BIM. So we've put, as a group, as a pillar, we've examined the scope of the keywords we need to examine. We then go through the huge academic databases that are available. So anybody credible in our area will publish in these databases. And then we examine over the last 20 years what has gone on and where the current trends are. So for example, we can see on the bottom right here, circular economy is really coming to the fore in terms of the citations and the work that has been done in this particular area. We also see blockchain in the bottom left, industry 4.0. BIM comes in under 2 different headings. Interesting to see we have UK and American spelling in there, as well as digitalization and so on. So the size of each bubble reflects the number of works under that category. Then we can see the relationships between that category and another bubble, for example. So this has been pretty comprehensive, and thank you, Sadaf, for this great work. Okay. So I'll now talk about kind of the keyword findings and the keyword pairings and the key findings we've had under 3 different groupings. So first and foremost, so we need to take 36,000 papers, and I'm bringing them down to 3 slides now. So first and foremost, we see here, using the circular economy and digitalization literature, there's a lack of a thorough overview of digital technologies. So how often do we see people making strategic decisions based on the tools and technologies that they're aware of only, as opposed to having a much better solution based on what's available in the market? So we need to have that, and as part of our hub, Robert and I have been talking about, have a full overview of digital technologies that are available to us and to the industry. Okay, we've also heard Barry talk about the integration of data templates and digital building logbooks and such other technologies. Integration is a key challenge. We're all intimately familiar with it. There's also a lack of focus on the demand side for circularity. Clients must demand that our projects are in line with the circular economy principles, okay, and with knock-on benefits for resource reduction, etc. And I mentioned again the need for information management. So I firmly believe I do a lot of work in kind of requirement specifications for different model view definitions and so on. So we need to define the information we need first, the business processes, the information, and then go back up to the top and select the appropriate tools that allow us to fulfill the business functions outlined by our business requirements and information needs. Okay, and that's not just in terms of use, it's in terms of storage and access as well. So moving on to our next pairing or grouping, circular economy, digitalization and the built environment. We see that there's been a limited effect or impact of standardization on SMEs. That's a key concern, and it's really to the foremost of our minds when we're designing our toolkit. And particularly also looking at the living labs and the living lab candidates that we're going to work with. We also see that there's and it's not unsurprising, that there's a limited amount of published scientific research that involves SMEs. SMEs don't have the resources to engage in scientific publications. And that is something we need to be aware of. Okay, the last pairing here is circular economy and BIM literature. And we see here, first and foremost, that the BIM approaches typically lack the provision to include monitoring data directly into the BIM. This, for me, is what I class as a no-brainer. So monitoring data is typically time series in nature. Put time series data in a relational database, link it to the BIM via pointer or an address. It's pretty straightforward. I've done this 10 years ago at prototype level and even larger scale level, as many of my colleagues have. It's not difficult. Okay, circular economy principles in BIM, we see only addressed from the design perspective. I see emerging work in the literature looking at concepts such as material banks, where, challenging in nature, and I think we can all think of the practical considerations, but where essentially waste and the byproducts of not only demolition, but reuse and so on, will be stored at a material bank and it will be logged appropriately and accessible then to other clients and future projects. So it's an interesting concept, and let's see how far it goes. Okay, and then we also see the lack of studies for delivering waste-efficient building projects. Okay, just a couple of words then on the national survey. So I have one slide here, and the key findings we have here is that everybody across the value chain has a role to play, and that's across the value chain and across the life cycle. Okay, when we see that the main drivers that we've identified under this pillar, again, cost is always to the forefront of everybody's minds, delivering greater efficiencies, leadership and competitive advantage. So we see some of the findings are in line with expectations in that regard. Okay, and particularly for SMEs, it's the next point in bold here. We see that the lack of knowledge and training is a massive issue, and the incentive to train is massively important. Okay, lack of time, lack of commitment. And then I think it's just massively important that we bring sustainable thinking to the forefront of our minds as we start with projects. So Aidan just talked about the benefits of kind of engaging with this pillar, changing the way he's thinking about looking at his large-scale project and so on. Can we do that for the industry? And we need to roll out the toolkits in a manner that facilitates such a mindset shift. Okay. Right, so where are we right now in terms of the development of our toolkits and our framework for us to support our toolkits? So what we've done is, and I want to stress again, we're not looking to reinvent the wheel here. We want to basically consider what's out there in industry, what's of quality, what's of value, and how can we work with the kind of the principles, the information, and so on, so that basically people are not starting from scratch, they're working with concepts they're familiar with. So for example, let's just take the REBA plan of work, that the toolkit could be presented in terms of different stages. As an example, we're also aware of the say the BREEAM or LEED evaluation systems or certifications and so on. So the toolkits need to be presented using the language of the industry as opposed to inventing something completely new. Also note that kind of a lot of what's on the left here and color coded can work very well for buildings. But we also need to be cognizant of infrastructure, and this is something that's come out in true engagement with our industry members on our pillar. And again, we see here we've listed a number of different certifications and systems. But again, the Home Performance Index is an Irish system launched by the Irish Green Building Council. Okay, so that's where we are at the moment, and we're looking forward to pushing this on over the next few weeks and months. So our next steps: we have a workshop today. We will expand and complete the horizon scan beyond the academic literature, looking at the projects and those interviews, something similar to what Alan explained in his last pillar. And we need to do the in-depth statistical analysis of the survey findings. There's a healthy number of survey responses. So we're very happy with that. develop our toolkits and start testing with the living labs and refining accordingly. So with that, I'll wrap up. I hope everybody enjoys their coffee. Thank you very much.